Hello Universe, I'm Joey, and I'm gonna show you a multiverse of video games. So I'm gonna grab my Mega Man Sega Genesis cartridge, and we're gonna take a look at the AtGames version of the Sega Genesis, well, the HD version of the AtGames Sega Genesis. And this is going to be a superficial review unboxing, so I'm going to call this a Volume 0, because it's going to lead up to later videos that, Episode 1 will come later when I'm ready to take a more in-depth look at what's, well, in the box. So I'm going to unbox this thing. This is an unboxing and a very quick and superficial review. So, hopefully you'll enjoy and stay tuned, as you can see. Take a look at an old Sega Genesis box, and then take a look at the box this thing comes in, and you'll see that it pays homage to the original Sega Genesis to a degree in the box, and definitely in the form of the actual object itself. And normally I'll focus on what's being portrayed in the video games that I'm talking about. That's usually my goal, but this is going to be a little superficial. This is going to be an unboxing. So stay tuned and see what's in this box. Okay, let's take a look at what's inside this box. Now, I purchased this used, so it was already opened, and I already took a look inside anyway, but here we go. Some bubble wrap. There's the instructions. Some bubble wrap. Pretty decent recreation of the Sega Genesis, only smaller. I mean, size and shape wise, it looks pretty cool. HDMI cable, 2 controllers, and this one already has a battery in it, I know, because whenever you press something on it, it lights up. I don't know about this one though. No. One thing I hate is when you have to unscrew something to change the batteries. I hate that. I mean, battery covers used to stay on, they were good, they were sturdy, everything was fine, and then they had to put a little screw in there because they're afraid somebody would give something to a kid and they'd swallow the battery. Well, that never used to happen in the 80s. So why do they do that now? Anyway, here we have an AC adapter. Yay! Yeah, so don't have to plug this into a USB port to power it. Alright. So, oh, and one thing, I got this used, so I can't necessarily blame the manufacturing quality, but one of the rubber feet on the bottom of this thing is missing. That one right there, missing. And it appears to be stuck right there. It's worth mentioning that you can kind of benefit from using a camera with a big screen for certain things, and I actually use my cell phone for the next bit of this video, so some audio discrepancies may be noticeable. There might be a little noise as some electric heaters going in the background are in the process of turning off and cooling down. But here we have, we're not on a perfect angle with it, but here we have a high-definition television. I don't normally use this television for playing video games because I usually use an old cathode ray tube television. But there we have it. There's the new Sega Genesis AtGames Flashback Portable HD, well, not portable, Flashback HD, whatever. There it is, setting in front of the television, looking a lot like a Model 1 Sega Genesis would. And here's the controller that comes with it. There's a little switch right over here. Can you see that switch? That determines whether this is player 1 or player 2. There's the battery compartment, which looks like a pretty good battery compartment, except for one thing. One problem. Let's see. Can you see it? Yeah, you have to get a screwdriver and take out that screw to change the batteries. Well, screw that. I hate that. I mean, battery covers were reliable for decades and decades and decades, and then they had to start putting screws in them. Oh, well. Anyway, one thing that's noticeable about this is whenever you press a button or anything on the D-pad, That blue light there lights up, yeah. And unfortunately, due to the time of day, we're getting a lot of reflection on the television. But here we go. We're going to turn on the AtGames Sega Genesis Flashback HD Super Deluxe device, whatever. Enough names go on there, so I'm tossing on Super Deluxe or SLX package or Z24 package. I don't care. It's just, all right. We're switching it on. All right, there we go. And if you notice that big gray button right here, okay, I switched it on. What's happening? There we go. AtGames. And now we're going to get the menu. There we go. All right. Recent games. Yeah, those are games all games I tested and checked out on this thing already. Now, I wonder, probably won't do much if I hit it now. No, because I'm already at the menu. But if I was in a game hitting that gray button, which would normally be a reset button on a Sega Genesis, that will it just brings you back to this menu here. And let's see, am I blocking the signal? No, the signal's going good. All right. And I'm using this controller right now. I could plug a regular Genesis controller into this thing, but this controller's pretty good. I prefer the original controller, but as knockoff controllers go, this is pretty good. Yeah. Now, if you could just press to the left to control the menu items on the left, that would be good. I don't find it that bad scrolling through it with the B and C buttons, but some people have really complained about this menu. The look of it, how you see the games laid out, I do like that more than the Nintendo Family Computer Mini. I didn't get the North American NES Mini, I got the Japanese equivalent. And I'm not a huge fan of the menus on that. And while this isn't perfect, I find one about as good as the other. Actually, I kind of like this more because you can see more stuff on screen at a time. There's no real option for all games. It's either Mortal Kombat or Sega, or specifically Sonic. And they left out Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine from the Sonic games. And I think it should be there. Granted, Sonic has more of a presence in Tails' Adventure because there's a little icon in the game that looks like Sonic, but I don't know. I think Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine should have been listed here. And of the licensed games that they have on this, for some reason they skipped Sonic 3. And Sonic 3 was awesome. But one of the first games I always test when seeing if a device is either properly recreating or emulating Sonic, Sonic, but Sega games in general, is Sonic Spinball. Because there's one audio track in Sonic Spinball, which is kind of like a hard kick-ass rock song or rock music track, whatever, that is one of my favorite audio tracks of the 16-bit era. Let's say if they get this right, because even some of the supposedly well-emulated collections for the Xbox 360 of Sega games, they almost always screw this up. And in the Xbox, I think it was the Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection, they even mentioned, the guy that created the music for this went on to, have some sort of job in Hollywood or something like that. I could be wrong about that, about what he did, but there was, credits in the game for the person who produced the music for this. So you'd think this would be a game they'd want to get the audio correct for in those collections, but they always screw it up. And it's never as good as the original cartridge. Will this finally get that correct? And I pressed the wrong button there. All right. So this is the first thing I always check to see if the audio is correct. So far, so good. Not bad, not bad. Not acceptable. Not acceptable. That's not how it sounds on an actual Genesis cartridge. It just has to be off a little bit, and this music goes from kick-ass to crap. And this is scratchy crap. It was always supposed to be metallic and hard, and this is pinny scratchy crap. Unacceptable, full fail. But so far this is the worst the worst of any of the games come out, but there's other problems too. Alright. Anyway, this is one way you can go back to the menu. And I'm going to have to stop this video because that damn phone is ringing. Okay, as you can see, pressing the menu button on the Genesis, that little gray button that on a previous Genesis would have been a reset button, brings up this menu here, rather than taking you back to the main menu, but that's okay. Oddly enough, quit game, you press down on the D-pad, which I don't know, there's something with that seems odd for me that they would pick that as the whatever. Oh, here's another way you can switch between games. You can go into this menu here and just scroll through the games. Yeah. Something that's interesting is the Japanese version of this game here. It's actually a prequel to most of the Sonic games. And in the North American version, the manual kind of made it out to be a sequel. Though, if you get the version for the GameCube, the information in that kind of indicates it really is a prequel. Yeah, it doesn't really say. It just says it's Tails is about to embark on his own adventure. Yeah, but whatever. Anyway, I'm gonna back out of this, and B goes back to menu. A would have played games, and all right, scroll up to here. Okay, so one of the first games I tested when I turned this thing on, and I'm gonna go back to it again, is something that, well, it's absolutely awesome that it's here. The original Phantasy Star. And while it is very good that Phantasy Star 4 is there, Phantasy Star 4, the greatest work of art created by humanity, is right there, as is Phantasy Star 3 and Phantasy Star 2. But since they threw in Sega Master System games, this collection thankfully has all 4 games, and Phantasy Star 1 is great. Let's visit that. We're going into the world of Phantasy Star. And how will we view this universe? Will we view it in a good way, or are we going to get a garbled perspective? Well, the music feels kind of weak. The music is alright, but at the title screen it just felt off and a little bit weak. Not bad, just not perfect. It seems alright here, but something does feel a little bit off about it. It's hard to place. But if anyone, Phantasy Star, as well as Sonic the Hedgehog, Vector Man, these are games that are burnt into my soul, you know. If anybody would notice a picky little difference, it would be me. And I don't find this bad. Just something was off on the theme music, and it's not as off now. I'm okay with it at the moment, but the theme just felt weak. Visuals are fine. I like the visuals. I turned off the scan line thing, you know, just render it straight up as clear as possible, I say. Alright, here's this here. Yeah, we're going into the 3D dungeon. We're going 3D dungeon. There's no monsters in this dungeon, so, you know, no problem. We'll just check the end of this hallway anyway. Anything? Nope. Okay. Just like every other time. Let's get out of here. Alright, let's wander around. We're just testing the game, so, you know, whatever. Let's go combat. You know, if you're using a Sega Genesis controller on the Sega Master System, or for that matter, with the Sega Genesis and a power-based converter, the buttons you use for Sega Master System games are B and C. On this, it's A and B, which is kind of interesting. Oh wait, I'm pressing the wrong button. There we go. Okay, as much as I love this game, we're here to just take a look at what's available. Another way you can go back to the menu is not pressing the gray button on the console, but one of the buttons here on this thing. So let's, oh, that was the pause button. All right, here we go, menu. And we're going to quit the game, and here we go. Here it is. Here's the ultimate video game. Humanity's greatest work of art ever. Audio's not bad. Oh yeah, there it is. There it is. Not bad opening. You know, the first time I started this up, I thought I could hear like the music notes stumbling over themselves a little bit, but I don't notice it at all this time, so it might have been just a mistake on my part. But this is pretty good. For the errors in the audio for Sonic Spinball, this is coming through pretty good. So, should I go into some gameplay? I would, but you know, this video is only going to be so long anyway. So you know, let's get back to what we can find here. And well, you know, we could scroll through the thing like this, but I'm just gonna straight up go back to the menu and yeah. All right, here we have. Anytime somebody tests anything Sega Genesis to see if it's right or not, you're going to go with Sonic the Hedgehog, because everybody knows Sonic the Hedgehog, and Sonic the Hedgehog is awesome, especially in the 16-bit era. Sonic the Hedgehog's basically the mascot of the 16-bit era. Pac-Man, the mascot for all video games. Mario, the mascot for Nintendo and perhaps the 8-bit era. But nothing says 16-bit era like Sonic the Hedgehog. So anyway, let's go into some Sonic the Hedgehog. Not bad. Audio so far, so good, seems. Something about the speed that the animation is going. Perhaps frame rate might be off? Well, here's the demo. Now, you might just think it's an error in the video recording. But does it seem to anybody else that the sound effects for the rings are a little bit delayed? And motion seems a little choppy. Looks like this licensed but knocked off version of the Sega Genesis, this emulated Sega Genesis, isn't quite up for blast processing. Yeah, blast processing was just a tagline for the fact that Genesis had a faster processor than its competitor. But its main competitor was the Super Nintendo, which processor had a clock speed on par with the ColecoVision. Yeah, some sound effects seem delayed, and motion seems a bit choppy. So I'd say emulation needs to be refined. Maybe the hardware needs to be advanced a little bit to run the emulator or something. But tweaks need to be made for future versions or whatever. So far, Sonic Spinball I'd call unacceptable, but everything else is imperfect, but just at the borderline of acceptable. And given the huge number of amazing games on this thing, I mean, let's go back here. Considering what's on this, I mean, Shining Force, Sonic the Hedgehog, Shinobi, you know, we're dealing with a pretty amazing list of games there. Tails Adventure is a pretty cool Game Gear game. It's basically like a role-playing game, an action role-playing game where you play. Due to technical reasons, I had to cut there. Okay, I want to show. Actually, I'm going to adjust this a little bit. There we go. I want to show a Game Gear game. We did a Sega Master System game. Audio did seem a little imperfect, but mostly not bad. The Sega Genesis audio, with the exception of Sonic Spinball, is holding up really well. Sonic the Hedgehog doesn't seem to be playing at full speed, but is playing. Awesome Phantasy Star games, of course, but I want to do a Game Gear game. And I have always been impressed with Sonic Triple Trouble. I thought it was a great 8-bit portable video game that, I don't know, I remember one magazine review, I think it was Electronic Gaming Monthly. At one point they said it held up against 16-bit games from the time period. And while I'm not sure how much I agree with that exactly when I replay it, I really do like this game. So, yeah, I'm going to go into this one. All right? We're going Sonic Triple Trouble. As you can see, compensating for the smaller resolution of the Game Gear, we have kind of like a Game Gear screen on the screen, and thus everything's in a smaller little box. I don't know if there's an option to blow that up to full size, but whatever, I'm perfectly fine with this. I don't mind a little letterboxing. In fact, I'm actually happy to know that I'm seeing all of the screen and that there's no overscan, but today's HD televisions don't give you overscan. I always hated overscan. As much as I often talk about liking the distinct contrast of old cathode ray tube televisions and the brightness of even the darker things on screen, that's if you have a good cathode ray tube television, I've often talked about that in other videos. At least I think there were videos I actually got around to uploading. But one thing I hated about old televisions was overscan. So when they started letterboxing movies, I was like, okay, can we letterbox it on all sides so we have a little black border around everything so I know that I'm seeing everything? I always hated missing a few little pixels off on the sides. But anyway, yeah. This game is, I'm pressing the start button and we're starting, and really I probably shouldn't play too much of it because I want to move on and do something else before I fill up this camera. But pick between Sonic and Tails, and you deal with Knuckles, Fang the Weasel, and Robotnik as potential competitors for the Chaos Emeralds and whatever, thus Triple Trouble. What I always found interesting about this game, and a little bit awkward to fit it in the timeline of the Genesis games, is at the end of Sonic and Knuckles should probably trust each other. And Sonic and Knuckles clearly takes place right after Sonic 3, where Sonic and Knuckles first meet. So, this game, where Sonic and Knuckles have already met, but don't seem to trust each other, seems a little awkward to place in the timeline of Sonic games. Oops, I done screwed up there. Oops, and I did it again. Yeah. I'm not super used to this game, but I'm gonna try just... Woo! Okay. I'm going to try. Because you can do this maneuver in this game. It reminds me of Sonic CD, and I love Sonic CD, so I always like doing that maneuver. Anyway, let's move on to something else. Okay. Spring up here, and we're stopping. Okay, this here is a reproduction cart of Mega Man The Willy Wars, which was only available as a download on Sega Net for the Sega Genesis in North America. They never made a physical cartridge of it, but it was released as a physical cartridge in both Europe and Japan for the Sega Mega Drive. But here in North America, we didn't get a physical cartridge. I actually heard a prediction that Capcom didn't do it because they were trying to stay on good terms with Nintendo and all sorts of theories like that. It just seems odd that a game this awesome would not get a physical release. It was only a digital download back in the 1990s, unless you're in Japan or Europe. But this is a reproduction cart with the North American game in it. And so that's great. One problem with this is it's a reproduction cart, and the people who made it not only made it physically in the body of a Japanese Sega Mega Drive cartridge, but they also didn't put in backup memory, and this one uses a save game backup memory instead of passcodes. So this is a perfect device to play that, because who needs your internal backup memory to work when you have save states? So that might compensate for that. So this is the first time I'm trying a cartridge in this at all. First time with a cartridge. Are you going to load the cartridge? Are you going to load up? Yeah, there you are, AtGames. Do you recognize the cartridge? Did I shove it in awkwardly? Oh, we recognize the cartridge. Oh, and we recognize it's Mega Man. Mega Man is achieved. All right. Woohoo! We have achieved Mega Man. Yeah, it's cracked because he turned the digital download from Sega Net into a cartridge. Whatever. You also could get the European or Japanese versions of the game, too. Yeah. This is straight up the North American version. At least as far as I know it is. Also works great on the Retro Freak video game console. And an actual Sega Genesis. It plays great on that, but as I said, this particular cartridge doesn't have the original backup save memory. So something like the Retro Freak, which has save states, kind of helps compensate for the limits of this knockoff cartridge, which is nowhere near as good as what the original cartridge should have been, just because it doesn't have backup, the backup memory battery thing in it. Yeah, whatever. Mega Man 1, Mega Man 2, or Mega Man 3? Let's go straight up for Mega Man 1. And remember, folks, on the Nintendo Entertainment System, Mega Man 1 did not have didn't have theme music behind the title screen. So they copied one of the best Mega Man themes ever for Mega Man 1. Oh yeah. And what was that theme? The one for Mega Man 3. Okay, there we have some weird artifacting. This does not happen on the Retro Freak or the original Sega Genesis. But then again, that could be just that I need to clean the cartridge, or the cartridge might not have gone in very well. So maybe the next time I load the game up, that won't happen. Because that's just wrong. Okay, so that's an error. That could be a fault of the machine, or it could be a fault of the cartridge. I might just need to clean the connections. I'm not sure. But, yeah. Hey, the music's still kick-ass. Mega Man is awesome. Great memories of Mega Man and Mega Man X. Also love Mega Man X. Alright. Well, I'm not going to play this very long because, you know, video, but, I'm only going to make this video so long, but as you can see, here's Mega Man. Alright, that button does that. This button does this, and everything's normal. Alright. Mega Man 1 in 16-bit. Ah. Alright. Yeah, I'm a little awkward at this. Come on, you little bastard. Alright, that's enough of that. Alright. Yep, we're Mega Man. Okay, that Mega Man game cartridge, I never have any trouble at all with it on any other game system, be it original hardware or even other consoles like the Retro Freak. So it's worth trying over again just to see if it's a one-time thing or if I keep having that same problem with this. Alright, gonna try that a second time, just see what happens. And this time when I loaded up the game, there was a little bit of glitchiness playing the opening music, that it kind of stumbled on itself a little bit. But anyway, here we go. Oh, same visual artifact. Although I took the cartridge out and put it back in and all that, I still can't say for sure that it would, what the fault is. I can't say for sure the fault is this AtGames Sega Genesis HD clone. I can't say for sure, but so far this happened twice after removing the cartridge and trying to make sure there was no dust in it or the cartridge slot. So, just saying, second try gave me the same result with this artifacting on the screen. But hey, that music's still kick-ass. Anyway, menu, let's see. Let's go back in. Okay, a little artifacting on the 3 in Mega Man 3. This thing has issues with title screens. That music is still kick-ass. Okay, I can't help but just mellow out and enjoy the music, but we just have to try again. Okay, one more try. Let's see what happens. Same visual artifacting. Oh, I also noticed some on the Mega Man title as well as the background or area around Mega Man. But one thing I'll say about this, the music is still kick-ass. Beautiful opening theme. Kick-ass opening music. Well, I'm going to enjoy the music for a while. Feel free to check out some other videos I may have done at some point in time. Okay, perhaps I ramble a fair bit in this video. I don't script these things, but this should give you a pretty good idea that the audio is mostly good in this, and that's usually where the AtGame clone consoles for Sega Genesis fail, is in the audio department. And there's definitely a few failures here in the audio department, but for the most part, it borderlines on acceptable to pretty good most of the time. So now you know, what to expect from this thing. And, you know, feel free to check out other videos of mine. This was a volume 0. Kind of like a video I did before something else that I plan to do, or episode 0. So I have in mind something a little more in-depth to do with this device. So I do plan to revisit the Sega Genesis AtGames HD console. And hopefully you enjoyed this, even though I tend to ramble a bit. I didn't script it. This is just me looking at the device, and hopefully you get an idea on whether or not this is a device you're interested in or not. Great, amazing selection of games, but their ability to play the games is not perfect. But hey, you can put in a game cartridge and you're going to have save states. That's pretty cool. I'm still here enjoying the music.